Something happened in the unseen realm, and it wasn't supposed to. Heaven has witnessed faith before. It has seen obedience, sacrifice, even suffering beyond imagination. But your response, the way you stood in silence while betrayal closed in, the way you refused to curse the darkness when everything was taken, created a pause in eternity itself. For a moment that cannot be measured in time, God did not speak. And Michael the warrior, who has faced ancient chaos without trembling, stood stunned by what your spirit revealed.
You thought you were being ignored.
You thought the silence meant abandonment. But what if the silence was reverence? What if heaven stopped because something inside you awakened that even angels rarely witness? Stay until the end, because the truth behind this silence will change how you see every loss, every delay, and every battle you thought you were losing. You remember the moment the noise faded. Not the noise of the world, but the quiet inside your prayers, the strange stillness where answers used to live. Doors closed without warning, messages went unanswered. Faces you trusted began to look unfamiliar, like strangers wearing memories. And in the middle of it all, one question kept circling your mind in the dark. Did heaven turn away from me? But what felt like abandonment on earth looked very different beyond what eyes can see. Because while others crumble into bitterness when silence stretches too long, you didn't. You bent, but you did not break. You questioned, but you did not curse. And that quiet endurance became a language the spiritual realm understands better than words. There are moments when God does not speak, not out of distance, but out of focus. The way a master artist pauses before the final stroke. The way eternity leans closer when something sacred begins to form. Angels watched the way you carried pain without poison. Records were written about the restraint you thought no one noticed. And Michael, the warrior who has seen kingdoms rise and fall in a single breath, recognized something rare inside you. Strength that did not come from victory, but from identity. Yet here is the mystery that unsettles everything. If heaven's attention was truly on you, why did the attacks grow sharper instead of stopping? Because silence was never the test. What came next was. It didn't come from strangers. That is what made it hurt in a way you could not explain. Frame as a spiritual alignment tool, invite viewers to pause, breathe, and commit to protecting their peace. Position engagement, like, subscribe. Cockerman as an act of agreement with their destiny, not a marketing request. If the wound had come from enemies, you would have understood the rules of the battle. You would have guarded your heart, prepared your defenses, expected the strike. But betrayal arrived wearing familiar voices, carrying memories, speaking in tones that once sounded like home. And when the truth finally revealed itself, the pain was not loud, it was hollow, a quiet fracture spreading through places you thought were safe forever. They watched you closely after it happened. Not with compassion, but with curiosity. Waiting to see if you would shatter, waiting to see if you would become bitter, defensive, loud, anything that would prove you were no different from the wounds you carried. Because darkness understands something most people never realize. If it cannot destroy the chosen one through force, it will try through disappointment. And for a moment, just a moment, you felt the pull, the urge to explain yourself,
to defend your name,
to return pain with equal precision. But something deeper stopped you. Not weakness, not fear.
Restraint.
You chose silence, where revenge felt justified. You chose distance, where chaos invited reaction. And in that decision, something shifted in the unseen realm like a door, quietly unlocking. Michael recognized this pattern instantly. He had watched pride ruin destinies that suffering could not touch. He had seen chosen ones survive battles only to fall to bitterness afterward.
But you did the unexpected.
You carried the wound without letting it rewrite who you were. And that, more than any prayer you spoke, echoed through heaven. Yet mercy has a cost most people never see, because when you refuse to fight the way darkness expects, the battlefield changes. The silence around you grew heavier, the loneliness deeper, the distance wider than before, which leads to the question no one prepared you for. If your response pleased heaven so much, why did everything suddenly feel even more alone? Because the next test was never about people. It was about power you didn't know you carried. This was the part no one warns you about. The moment when you have already survived betrayal, already proven your restraint, already whispered prayers through exhausted nights, and yet nothing changes. No sudden rescue. No visible justice. No voice from heaven breaking the silence. Only time, stretching thin like a wire pulled too tight. You began to wonder if endurance had an expiration date, if faith could quietly fade without anyone noticing, if maybe, just maybe, you misunderstood your purpose entirely, because waiting can feel more violent than the storm itself.
Storms are loud.
Storms move, but this stillness, it traps you inside your own thoughts, forcing you to face questions you cannot escape. Yet beyond what you could see, movement was happening with terrifying precision. Intervention too early would have saved your comfort, but destroyed your transformation. Some authority can only be born in places where help does not arrive. Heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was measuring you. Not your perfection, but your persistence. Michael understood this law of battle better than anyone. Warriors are not revealed in victory. They are revealed in the long, invisible stretch where quitting would be reasonable and continuing makes no logical sense. And still, you kept going. Quietly, weak some days, questioning many nights, but breathing belief when disbelief would have been easier. That persistence became evidence, not on earth, but in a courtroom beyond sight. Because something dangerous happens when a soul refuses to collapse. The role changes. You are no longer just the target of darkness. You become a threat to it, and the instant darkness realizes you didn't break.
The strategy shifts.
The pressure increases. The battle accelerates, which reveals the chilling truth hidden inside this waiting. Your hardest fight was never behind you. It was being prepared in silence. It was being prepared in silence for the exact moment you were finally strong enough to face it. And when that moment arrives, even heaven will move differently. The shift did not arrive with thunder. No sudden light split the sky. No voice announced that the battle had changed. When that, instead, it happened quietly, the way the most powerful transformations always do. One ordinary moment, in the middle of an ordinary day, you felt the old reaction rise again. The memory, the anger, the echo of everything that had been taken from you. For a second, it would have been easy to return to it.
To let bitterness feel like strength.
To let revenge feel like justice. To finally release the words you had been swallowing in silence. No one would have blamed you. Even heaven would have understood the pain. But you didn't. Something deeper than emotion stood up inside you. Not loud, not dramatic.
First tear.
You chose peace when chaos was justified. You chose stillness when reaction was expected. You chose release when holding on felt deserved. And in that invisible decision, the atmosphere of the unseen realm changed instantly. Because heaven does not move first at pain. Heaven moves at alignment. Michael felt it before it was spoken. The warrior who had watched centuries of human pride destroy sacred callings suddenly witnessed something rare. In strength without hardness, authority without arrogance, surrender without defeat. This was the mark he had seen only a few times across ages. The signal that a chosen one had crossed from survival into readiness. And the moment readiness appears, permission follows. What had been delayed begins to move. What had been blocked begins to open. What had been hidden begins to surface with unstoppable force. But acceleration carries danger. Because when heaven responds, darkness responds faster. Exposure invites confrontation.
Calling invites resistance.
Destiny invites war.
And the same attitude that stunned angels is the very thing that awakens enemies who hoped you would stay buried. So the real question is no longer whether you will rise. The question now is this. When destiny finally steps into the light, are you prepared for everything that will try to stop it? Reversal never begins the way people imagine. There is no trumpet in the sky. No public announcement declaring that your suffering has ended. Instead, it starts quietly, almost too quietly to notice. A strange calm where anxiety once lived. Clarity in decisions that used to confuse you. A strength in your voice that surprises even you when you hear it. Small shifts. Subtle movements. But in the spiritual realm, nothing about this moment is small, because timing has finally aligned with transformation. The endurance you carried in silence is no longer hidden. What was forming in darkness begins to surface in light. And suddenly, the same situations that resisted you start rearranging themselves without explanation. People who overlooked you begin to watch. Doors that stayed closed for years loosen on their hinges. Conversations change tone. Opportunities appear where emptiness once ruled. Not coincidence. Not luck.
Order.
The quiet arrival of justice that does not shout. Because it does not need to. And those who misunderstood your silence feel it first. Not through revenge. Not through humiliation, but through truth unfolding in ways no one can control. They expected your collapse. Instead, they are witnessing your elevation. Yet this is where the danger hides. Because reversal tests the heart differently than suffering ever could. Pain humbles you. But restoration can seduce you. Pride waits patiently at the doorway of blessing.
Dream that you survived by your own strength.
Inviting you to become the very hardness that once wounded you. And heaven watches again. Not your past endurance, but your present posture. Will you remain grounded in humility? Or rise into the same arrogance that destroys destinies at the moment of arrival? Because the greatest reward was never the open doors. Never the watching eyes. Never even the justice now unfolding. The true gift is revelation. The moment you finally see who you were becoming all along. And once that identity is revealed, nothing in your life will ever move the same again. Now the silence makes sense. Not the painful kind you felt in lonely nights, but the sacred kind that only exists where something eternal is being formed. God was never absent, never distracted, never unaware of the tears you hid from everyone else. The silence was honor, a quiet trust placed on a soul strong enough to grow without constant reassurance, because some transformations are too holy for interruption. If heaven had spoken too soon, you might have leaned on comfort instead of becoming power. If rescue had arrived early, endurance would never have revealed who you truly were. And Michael, ancient witness to wars beyond imagination, understood why this mattered. He had seen strength built from victory. He had seen loyalty built from fear, but strength born from suffering without bitterness. That was rare even in eternity. Why? That was you. Not perfect, not untouched by doubt, but refined in a fire that did not consume you, only clarified you. And this is where most people misunderstand the story. They think survival was the destination. They think restoration is the reward. But neither was the point. Chosen one, I need you to stop everything and listen to what I am about to tell you, because within the next 24 hours, I am someone Lao.
Is they are positioned for impact?
Everything you endured was preparation for influence. For moments where your voice will reach someone standing in the same darkness you once faced alone. Your scars become language. Your silence becomes authority. Your endurance becomes light. And still, one mystery remained. If this was only preparation, if the battles, the betrayal, the waiting, and even the silence were just the beginning, then how vast is the destiny still ahead of you? Heaven does not answer that question with words. It answers with doors you have not seen yet, paths you cannot predict, and a future that unfolds only as you walk forward in faith. So this is not the end of your story. It is the first moment you finally understand it. And what comes next will reveal why heaven trusted you with silence in the first place. Empowerment-focused closure. Encourage viewers to step into their calling, share the message with someone in a silent battle, and affirm. Your silence was not the end. It was the moment heaven leaned closer. Tone must feel prophetic, intimate, and victorious, not promotional.